Hey, welcome everybody. Appreciate everybody that is on this call this morning. This is our Colorado Tree Care Sector Partnership Arborist Apprenticeship information call. And just want to welcome everybody that's here. The purpose of this meeting is to share experiences and awareness of the Arborist Apprenticeship Program. And hopefully to answer any questions you might have about implementing apprenticeship at your company or just what is apprenticeship. My name's Josh. I'm the chair of the Colorado Tree Care Sector Partnership, and we're the entity that has been championing Arborist Apprenticeship within Colorado over the last several years. And so, yeah, I don't know if we want to go through and just introduce everybody that's here, but we can go ahead and do that to start the call. So I'll hand it over to Nikki.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I'm Nikki Lucas, and I am part of the Place Setting Company, and we help provide administrative support for the Tree Care Sector Partnership. Amanda?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I work with Nikki and just happy to see you all this morning. Thanks for being here. I'll pass it over to Lynn.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lynn Bossler. I'm Executive Director of Workforce Development for Front Range Community College, and we oversee the related learning portion of the Arborist Apprenticeship. And I will hand it over to Kelly.
Awesome. Thanks, Lynn. Kelly Goosh. I'm the district manager for Save a Tree, and we've got a few apprentices in the works with related learning and a couple of years into the program. And so we'll share some experiences here in a few minutes, but really excited to look for, ways to increase the workforce, right? We're all looking for more talented people. And so I will pass it over to Tammy.
Hi, I'm Tammy. So I work with Kelly at Save a Tree. And yes, we do have apprentices that work with us. We're very excited about the program. We're really happy to be able to share about the program with more people and have people learn about the great opportunities we have in the tree care industry for long-term career opportunities. And I will go ahead and pass it over to Kat.
Thanks, Tammy. I'm Kat Plaza. I am a statewide registered apprenticeship consultant. So I'm here to help wrap the bow on it and help it get registered with apprenticeship so you guys can get that staff you need. And I will send it on to Megan.
Good morning. I'm Megan Townsend. I'm with Altitude Arborist. We are interested in the apprenticeship program.
Welcome, Megan.
And I'm supposed to pass it along. Sheesh. Yeah. I will pass it along to Mike.
Good morning, everybody. Mike Earl, Old Growth Tree Service up in Eagle, Colorado. We as well are interested in the apprenticeship program. Corey, good to see you. Passing it on.
Good morning, friends. My name is Corey Lofi. I'm the Arborist with ArborJet, and as Josh knows, the co-host on Discovering Forestry podcast. And I'm just looking to support you guys in any way possible and spread the good word about what you're doing. Who has not had the baton yet in this Hollywood Squares?
You can pass it to Sam.
There you go, Sam.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sam Hall. I'm with the Boulder Chamber of Commerce. I'm on the economic vitality piece, and I want to gain some more information so we can maybe have some discussions about workforce and being a part of this apprenticeship.
Awesome. Welcome, Sam. Glad to have you here. Also, Corey, glad you're here as well. And then last up, is that Becky?
Yeah. Sorry. Hi, this is Becky Troyer. I'm with Front Range Community College also, and I help with the logistics of trying to keep the classes running and students registered and all of that piece. So I'm behind the scenes, be happy to have all of you on board if you're want to hire some apprentices and get them trained, we'll get them in there.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for being here. And Nikki, are there some other folks listed on the call as well that maybe we just don't see?
No, but I'm going to just hop into the tree sector Gmail, just make sure no people aren't having issues getting in, but you can go ahead and start since we're recording.
Cool. And I think so, clearly the, target, audience here is Mike and Megan, since you're here to, learn about Arborist Apprenticeship, and also anyone else that could potentially lead someone towards Arborist Apprenticeship. And I think a lot of the opportunity is to understand what apprenticeship is and isn't. And we thought a great way to do that was just to share experiences of companies that have implemented that. And so I want to start off with, Kelly representing Save a Tree, who's been one of the biggest championships of Arborist Apprenticeship. So if you could share, Kelly.
Yeah. So, I think all of us, and for a number of years have known we don't have enough talent in our industry, right? So, and we're big believers in the fact that we have great careers. I mean, all of us are in this career because we love it. And we'd love to find more people to jump into this career with us. And so we had been supportive of the program long before even its inception, and tried to get it kicked off the ground, and worked, and then the coalition came together. We formed it with Front Range Community College partnering to do the related learning piece. And so really we actually had, in our very first year, we put 3 people into the apprenticeship program. And then in the year 2 cohort, we've got 2 people in, and then we're looking this year to start another cohort of at least 3, potentially 4. I've opened it up to 4 of my branches that I think I'm hoping each of them can come up with 1 person to put in. And really, I look at it as it's a bit of an accelerated way to take somebody who doesn't know, very much about our industry at all, and to get them proficient as an arborist in our industry that's a climbing field arborist. And that takes a while, whether we do it ourselves, because I'm lucky enough to have a large organization, lots of training resources at our disposal. I still find value in having some of our team members go out and do a couple of things. One, it's a pretty defined curriculum, right? So that helps in terms of figuring out exactly how much time every apprentice is spending in different competencies, whether that's learning how to run a chipper and do that safely, whether that's learning how to be a ground person and do rigging from the ground, whether that's learning how to do the rigging from in the tree aloft. And so there's a progressive curriculum that I really like. And then, again, we have a ton of resources at Save a Tree to train people, but I like the fact that the related learning is actually offsite with a group of people that generally are in the same skill set as the rest of their peers, and to learn together, right? And to learn from other people, other proctors that are not from the same company that I have. Although we do have one person that was a proctor previously, and I think we're going to have another person as well. So Save a Tree not only has apprentices program, but we also have an employee who's part of that proctor group. But I think, we can all attest to sometimes we need to hear things from other people. We can profess or teach people all day long, and then as soon as somebody else tells them the same thing we've been telling them for 3 months, then they all of a sudden the light bulb goes on. Okay, I'm hearing this a 3rd time, and it's from somebody that's not from my company, so I know it's an industry standard. And so that's the value in my mind, is that they're learning from not only people within our company, from people outside of our company, right? because again, we love our industry, and I think that there's lots of great people that do great things out there. And so that's the value. And, you know, yes, it is an investment. It's an investment not only in the actual setup of the apprenticeship program. We actually invest in the tuition for the program for our employees, and we do pay them to go to class. It's an investment that I look at, it's probably $5,000 a year. And then yes, there's an opportunity cost, right? Which is they're out of the field, they're learning for X number of days every winter. We've tried to structure it to be the best way possible, you know, during the winter months when I'm going to say it is slower. It's never stops, right? Life never stops, but it's a little bit more convenient. So there is no doubt an investment in the, you know, in those individuals and in the program, but collectively, if we're attracting people to the workforce with some talent and teaching them, you know, we're all going to be better off for it, which is really why I know I've lost 2 apprentices, but I know they're still working in the industry. To be honest with you, that's a good thing. And so I appreciate that. And even though we've lost a couple that we had invested in, but still looking to invest some more. And so, like I said, working on identifying, you know, those few that we're going to enter into this 3rd cohort and, you know, keep the ball rolling. So, you know, trying to figure out how, you know, I know we've only got a couple of companies that are interested today, but how do we continue to attract companies to this group that will be, you know, willing to make those same investments, right? Trying to figure out a way to keep the cost as low as we can, which takes some sustainable level of students. But that's our experience, you know, and I can tell you that honestly, even for the 2 apprentices that we had, they were making huge strides. Like their learning is really accelerated. And, you know, so they were making great strides in their skills in a pretty short period of time. You know, as you know, you can't just throw somebody in a tree overnight. It doesn't work very well. It's not safe. And so those each of our apprentices have made great strides. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. Really appreciate you taking the time to speak about your experience. And also, you know, what I heard there was how apprenticeship aligns with the values of Save a Tree in terms of training, you know, your employees and also uplifting the industry. Yeah. You know, Nikki, I don't know, do we want to open it up for questions, or should we ask Tammy to share her experience as well, if that would be helpful? I don't know, what's the agenda?
Sure. Definitely, if somebody has a question specifically for Kelly, we could do that now.
Kelly and Josh, I had heard Kelly mention an accelerated way to obtain a climbing arborist inside the curriculum. Is that the main focus on the apprenticeship program? Is the position of climbing arborist?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're looking for is the most well-rounded person that we can have, right? From the standpoint, again, of everything between the ground operation, the, you know, chipping, to being in the tree, learning all the different methods of climbing support systems, right? So fall protection systems and the safety related part of that. And just general knowledge on tree identification, on what else? I mean, climbing systems. I mean, you name it. If we deal with it in our industry, that's the goal, right? Is to try to cover all of that and to make sure that that's a progressive learning, right? So we're not going to probably train somebody in the very first year on single rope techniques, right? I don't think that's generally what we would do. That's in a further year curriculum. Typically, maybe that's not exactly the case, but Josh, I don't know if what your experience has been. I mean, you've taught a couple of the classes from a tree identification to other things as well. So
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think it's aligned with what you're saying there, Kelly. Mike, yes, the Arborist Apprenticeship is aligned with and focused on the production climbing arborist, career position, right? That is the goal, is that when you are done with an apprenticeship program, the Arborist Apprenticeship program, you have all the skills and knowledge and competencies to go out there and run a crew and to train another up and coming arborist apprentice how to do the same thing. Like, that's the outcome. So asking the question, like, who isn't this arborist apprenticeship for? And I would just use the example. I had an inquiry from a woman the other day. She is, stoked about working outside, working with plants. She's left her office job and she wants to be an arborist. And she said, could you take me on as an arborist? And so I said, well, let's meet up and talk about it. And, it turns out that she's in a place in her life, changing careers, where she's interested in learning all of this and being a knowledgeable arborist, also interested in starting her own company. But she's not interested in getting up into the trees and putting on a saddle every day to do the work. And so I said, well, it sounds like you want to be an arborist, and there's a lot of ways to become an arborist, but it doesn't sound like Arborist Apprenticeship is aligned with your pathway right now. Now, would she get value from sitting in on some classes? Absolutely. But would it make sense to enroll her into apprenticeship if she is not interested in putting on a saddle on a day-to-day basis, or at least on a semi-regular basis, or at least pruning trees? Probably not. So I don't know if that helps to answer what you were asking, Mike, but it really is, oriented around a production climbing arborist, and it hits on, other components like plant healthcare, tree biology, all the things that you need to know to be a well-rounded arborist, but it's just not the focus.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Cool deal. Any other questions?
Sort of along the same vein, couple of questions, I guess. Number one, would this be something that would be beneficial at all for someone who's not just fully green, right? Somebody who's been in for, say, less than a year, but they've got, they've been working every day with the crew. They're starting to pick up some climbing techniques and that type of a thing. Is that probably not the place for someone like that? Or, you really want somebody who's fully green coming into this?
I can speak to that. I don't know if, and just from experience, Megan, I think that's a great question, right? Like, who makes a good apprentice? And in my view, it is someone that is, apprentices are employees, right? So they're already working. They have to work. Most of their learning takes place working. And no matter where they are in their career, there's an opportunity to engage with apprenticeship. So that could be someone in your company that's already a journey worker. They have all, they prove it every day in what they go out there and do and how they train other employees. That's a journey worker. So they could, if you have Arborist Apprenticeship in place in your company, they could enroll in the database. You can document all their competencies. They have to stay in the database for 1,000 hours. But if they have it all, they can get a certificate of completion that says they have it all. And then, so that would be like one end of the spectrum. And that can go all the way down to the green employee. So for example, our first cohort of apprentices, a lot of them already working in companies, already climbing trees. Some had forestry degrees, different levels of all different levels in their career path. And, with some of the newer competency model, that's out there that allows for this flexibility. So, with the competency-based model, it's a minimum of 2,000 hours of on-the-job learning and a minimum of 144 classroom hours. So yes, and in fact, when our first cohort, one person that was in it, I know from Tatakin, because we had 3 people in it, he ended up running a crew, at the end of the first, so he became a crew leader, by the time he got out of, finished with his related learning. Another guy moved to Utah and started running a crew. So these are people that are already pretty well along in their, experience.
I would agree. I think, and I think that was pretty much our, most companies entered somebody in that had already had some experience. And I think the value of that is, again, sometimes stepping back. So, they may have been doing it for a year, but having the group of people really focused on how do I run a chipper safely for a day of related learning, it again reinforces what you may have been doing as a company, or it may bring just some things to light that, holy cow, maybe we weren't doing that to industry standard. We're not, none of us is perfect. And so trust me, there are things to learn in that process. And so I think that that's the value of even having a person that has some previous experience. I think, we're as a company, we're trying to identify some people that have been in, for maybe a month to 6 months, I think is where our sweet spot is we're trying to be. But again, we entered some people into the first year that were far more experienced than that. I think there's always a little bit of risk, at least for us, in taking somebody who has 0 experience and day one sending them to a related learning. They don't even know whether they like the industry yet or not. They almost have to have gotten their feet wet enough to know that, hey, this is really, really what I want to be, because it's a multi-year commitment, right? And I think that it's for people who have an interest in being here as a career. It's not a 1 to 2 year thing, and then I'm gonna go find something else to do. So that's my take. Yeah.
That's really helpful information. One of the things you mentioned is plant healthcare. I know we've got a couple of our employees who are interested in helping us expand our plant healthcare. And obviously this sounds like, unless you really want to do production climbing, this may not be the best, thing. How much of a plant healthcare education are they getting? Our goal in our company is if people want to, for anyone who enters our company, if they want to make it a career, to get them to be certified arborists, and then they can split off. If they want to be out of the trees, climbing and doing plant healthcare, great, run that for us, that type of a thing. But, kind of where does plant healthcare fall in the education piece?
Yeah, that's a great question, Megan. Thanks. I can take it since I've been teaching the tree biology component. There are some competencies and some, related learning that's specific to plant healthcare. But I can tell you that the tree biology really is probably the most relevant place where they get reinforced. And so that's starting at, like, we go over, like, how do plants work, right? And what's going on in the physiology and the anatomy of trees. And then we're bringing that into a practical context. Like, one of the things we talk about is, like, different wood structures. So a ring porous tree versus a diffuse porous tree, and actually how that's related to the ease of injecting those trees, right? And so there's a lot of context brought into that. Like, some of the competencies within tree biology are like performing a root collar excavation, and part of that is being able to explain, like, this is a root collar. This is why it's important that it's visible. Here's, a girdling root. Like, so you're really getting a foundation, very, like, ground level of, if you've taken a lot of biology in college, you're probably going to be like, maybe, might not, you might be a little dry, but then we bring it into like the real world scenario. And I think that's the power of it. We did tree ID this year, and we're walking around and we're like, oh, look, does anybody know what this insect is on elms, and it's European elm scale. And we talked about the life cycle of that. So it's bringing all those pieces together. Right. So, you can have, like, within our industry, you have guys and ladies that are like, for me, it's about climbing and pruning trees and removing them. That's what I'm interested in. And that other stuff that you guys do with those trucks that have pumps on them, I don't care. Right. But we approach it holistically. So it's like, hey, if you're an arborist, you need to know surgery. You need to know medicine, right? And then you need to know, like, cultural stuff, like, how do you keep your body healthy? How do you what's the tree's cultural needs? So that's how we touch on that, not to get too down a rabbit hole. So I don't know,
No,
Kelly, or
that
anybody
was
else.
great. I mean, we would love for any of our guys to be able to answer questions when a customer comes out, right? When they're on the job, so whether they're doing plant healthcare specifically or not. So that's good information to know. I'll keep asking questions unless you guys are tired of me asking questions. So do the apprentices enrolled earn certifications as they go along? There are all kinds of different certifications people can get, through TCIA and such. Are you guys doing aerial rescue, those types of things? Where what does that kind of fall into in the curriculum?
Yeah, and so just speaking to our program specifically, each module, for example, tree biology, there is a certificate of completion that goes along with each module. And so, like, for example, if there's competencies they have to demonstrate and tests they have to pass, if they attend and participate, and if they hit all those requirements within that module, they get a completion certificate from the Front Range Community College. And that's also important because you don't want someone just to attend the class and then walk away, right? And so we do that. We do see continual opportunities to align with some, and we've talked about, especially as it relates to things like aerial rescue, EHAP, where there's a lot of overlap. And we're in talks with TCIA because I think ideally, wouldn't it be cool if, as an apprentice, when you cover aerial rescue as part of climbing, hey, that takes care of your aerial rescue training. There's opportunity for that. That's not formalized at this point, but there's definitely a lot of crossover. For example, one of the topics for the third year cohort is transition to journey worker. And from my experience, that's a great opportunity to bring in, like, CTSP, which is Certified Tree Care Safety Professional, because that's really about how do you help people to learn in all these different learning styles. And that's something like a crew leader needs to know, like, oh, Michael doesn't really learn by me telling him. He needs to get up there and try it himself. And that's something that CTSP covers. So we're looking at that. It's not in place right now, but there are certificates of completion.
I think I have one more question. What is the requirement of the company, right? I noticed that so the companies listed on the apprenticeship program are TCIA accredited. Is there any kind of specific requirement of the individual company?
Right. There are some requirements through the process with the Department of Labor, because that's who your apprenticeship program is registered with, is the Department of Labor. So in Colorado, we don't have a state Department of Labor. We follow the federal guidelines. So when you're setting this up, you would be liaisoning with CAT, and it's really coming through the Department of Labor office. So that's independent of any other International Society of Arboriculture or TCIA. even though the TCIA has registered the guidelines. So for example, the first company to have Arborist Apprenticeship registered in Colorado is a guy out of Pagosa Springs. I think he's a one-man tree care company. I've had like one conversation with him. He got apprenticeship registered. And, you know, I don't think he had any affiliation with any of these other larger, you know, trade or your professional organizations. So no, you don't need it. And you know, I'm a small company, just started, you know, in 2020. You know, I've got 2 employees. So you can be really small, or you could be a national company like Save a Tree. And it fits all sorts of different company sizes. And you know, the other thing is like what you're doing. Like, you don't have to, you know, deliver plant healthcare services to engage with Arborist Apprenticeship. You don't need to have a bucket truck. You don't need to have a chipper. So there's a lot of colors that this can encompass. I don't know, Megan, if you don't have any more questions. You know, we're also hoping, Tammy, that you could sort of share your experience from you know, in terms of engaging with Arborist Apprenticeship, and especially as your role within Save a Tree. So maybe we could give a little time for you to speak to that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not nearly as smart about trees as Josh and Kelly are. I'm from the human resources side, but what is fun is to watch the apprentices come in and the excitement that's there. And I think it's a very, very nice balance of being out on the job, learning all of the information, but then also getting some true training within a kind of a classroom environment as well. And like Josh says, we try to make that classroom training interactive and helpful. And I think that both Mike and Megan, you guys had some really, really good questions. One of the interesting things that happens during the program as well is not only are the apprenticeships having a fabulous time, it's also a really cool opportunity to develop your journey person. So whoever is helping that person learn, they get to develop some of their skills too. They get to be a stronger trainer. They get to go back, like Callie was saying, now, what is the actual code for this? What are we supposed to be doing? So it's really neat to see the interaction and the learning that actually comes from both sides of the apprenticeship. And then also one of the things that I think employers and prospective people need to know is you're not just out on your own. I mean, like you've got Lynn and Kat and other people that have some really cool things that they can do to help your organization and to be able to bring a program like this along. I mean, Kelly did say, you know, there are some costs involved, but then there's also some scholarships involved, and there's some other ways of making sure that we're providing the support for the individuals to participate in an apprenticeship program if they would like to.
Awesome. Thanks for saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody have a question? I think I heard something. No. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? Is that me echoing? Sorry, I'll mute myself.
I think you're good, Josh. Did you want to transition to Lynn now?
Yes.
Hi, all. So I'm just going to go through what happens at Front Range Community College for the related learning piece of the Arborist. And I'm thinking that, Nikki, can you bring up the website? This is at frontrange.edu/arborist. And so anytime you can go on there and take a look. And that kind of, we do have the schedule of classes on there so that you can kind of go through and see, as we were talking about curriculum, you can see what some of those courses look like. So we'll wait as this gets started. But this is our third year. We're going to be starting our third year. So our first year, we had 10 students start out. And we have, as Kelly said, we lost a couple along the way that have moved to other tree care companies. But then we had, you know, COVID sort of took a little bit of wind out of our sails. So we have 7 who started the second year. So we have 15 students now in the Arborist program. And we run our classes. The nice thing about this program is it is non-credit, although students can receive prior learning credit if they wanted to go ahead and pursue a degree through Front Range Community College in the in our horticulture program. They can, and many of these classes will transfer over. So if students are interested in pursuing a 2-year degree, they can still do that and use some of these courses to transfer over. But in the meantime, this is not on the non-credit side, which means that we don't follow the semester rules. So we can build the program the way that the employers want it to be, that works best for them. And so our classes don't start right away in September. We wait until late October, early November, and we run them through March when your employees are not working as much out in the field. And then we run our classes instead of, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 2 hours, and you have to keep traveling back and forth. We do our courses in 8-hour segments so that your employee is gone for the day and gets a lot of learning done for the day, instead of trying to travel back and forth to class. So yeah, you'll see here on the left all the companies that are involved. And if you want to open up to the class schedule down here, there we go, Nikki. Yeah, just go ahead and open into that first cohort. This is last year's. We don't have the new schedule up yet. We're still collecting information from our instructors to make sure it's going to work. But this gives you an idea of what the schedule looks like. So this is our first cohort last year, this is our first cohort that started. Yeah. And you'll see we had a makeup class in early September, but that's not typical. Generally, we start in November, but this group started actually December. And you can see we do tree and shrub ID, tree support system and lighting protection, tree planting and establishment, tree biology. And then at the end of the course is when we start, or at the end of the year, we start into the aerial work and climbing. And then we do rigging and then pruning. And we always build in some snow days, because that is the tough part about running the course during the winter when your employees can get out. It's also, we don't want too many folks up there in trees when it's snowing. So we build in some snow days. So if you want to just click to that next schedule, that next year's schedule, so you can see kind of what this curriculum looks like. This is actually what the students will start out with. So it's very confusing because we have cohort 1, 2, and 3 going all at the same time. But this is what they'll start with, is general safety. So there's 4 full days of just safety, and then equipment fundamentals. So spending a lot of time on that equipment and that safety, and then tree and shrub, and then biology, and then climbing. So the climbing starts out very intro, and then by the end, by the 3rd year, they're doing rescue and more advanced climbing techniques. And the other thing I will speak to is our instructors are amazing. They're people who are doing the work and out in the field doing the work at the same time. So we bring in, as Josh said, he's one of our main instructors, Dave Sexton, who is an arborist out of Fort Collins, city of Fort Collins, Chris Miller, who is now is he with Save a Tree now, guys? No?
He's with Davey.
Davey, that's right. He's with Davey. And he was with the city of Aurora. And then Keith Stoner is an amazing instructor who teaches all the climbing techniques. Keith actually flies in from Oregon to teach the course. So we try and bucket all those climbing programs together. Alex taught aerial training, and we have a new instructor that's going to teach our aerial training this year. And thank you to Kelly for helping find an instructor and donate the truck to be able to use for the climbing techniques. So if you want to go back, Nikki, any questions about the curriculum? And I'm happy to share even more detail if anybody wants it. I can give you complete course outlines for everyone. We spent got a grant through the community college system to really develop the curriculum. It's very solid, and we work directly with TCIA, so we use their manual. So yeah, if you want to look here at, so all the classes are taught at the Westminster campus, Front Range Community College. We are starting to go down the road of looking to see if we could do some of these virtual, so that we could build in some videos and things like that. So maybe we can limit the amount of time that employees have to be in the classroom. If you want to click on the tuition then. And this is the tuition for the year. Year one starts out heavy. That's the big investment is year one, and then year two and year three. So as Josh was saying, and Tammy, and I think Kat will allude to this as well, there are scholarship opportunities out there for employees and employers. I think that's about it. We do have a limit of 15 seats per cohort. And Becky's on. Becky, can you remind me on the deadline? I think it's October 16th to register for this year. And that's students need to get on and register for the first, second, and third year. And you can do that. If you see here, there is information on how to register. But first, before you register your student or your employee, you need to register your apprenticeship. And that happens through the Department of Labor. And so if there are any other questions about the courses, I will pass it over to Kat to talk a little bit about how you get your apprenticeship registered.
Thanks, Lynn. Nikki, do you want to pull my slide up, or do you want me to share my screen?
I have it ready, but I also gave you co-host capability if you prefer to share it.
I can just share it because I have it right here, but it should be the same. So thank you so much, Lynn. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to help you hopefully put the ribbon on the package. It's all of the things that you've heard today. And if they sound like this is the right opportunity for your organization, and this is where you're going to fit in, the Arborist and the Colorado Tree Care Partnership has done an amazing job, and they've really done all the work. I say that my job is to be I'm a tribal director from a dude ranch where I get to take you down the path, but you get to do all the work, and you've had a lot of people who've done the work before you here. So this is very specific to the TCIA and the Front Range Community College Apprenticeship Program. First steps would definitely be reaching out to me. We do have an apprenticeship development form. It's it's going to guide you through all of the information that we're going to need in order to get your program registered, as far as all of the details on for the Department of Labor, who you're going to contact for, who the apprenticeship can contact for, if there's any complaints, what your wage scale is going to look like. It's going to kind of break out all of the information that you need. Once again, I'm here to walk alongside you. So I usually like to start with a conversation, then send you that form. You can see how much you feel comfortable completing before we have those conversations to decide what's going to work for your organization. And then there are the TCIA national guidelines. Those are the work processes. We call them competencies. I think Kelly was also considering that as part of the curriculum when he was talking about how some of the curriculum is built out. That's kind of the on-the-job learning curriculum piece, as well as the Front Range Community College education piece is already built into that. But once again, if you're ready to accept everything that's already been laid out, you're just accepting into the actual work processes. If there's any changes that your organization would like to make, once again, I'm here to walk alongside you with that, and that's something that we can do. One of those changes is the national guidelines are typically a time-based or a hybrid program. So that's that 3-year program that you're seeing with the basic education. But there is also a competency-based option. I think I'm going to quote Josh here when he was talking about the flexibility that offers an employer. That can be anything as far as going down to that 2,000 hours if you're bringing in people that are already experienced and can work safely. And limiting some of that education component, or it could help you with offering the ability where if you don't have that 2,000 hours every year, it offers you that flexibility where you're still able to keep it more towards a 3-year program, but you are able to still work within what your budget allows and what you have available for work to your employees. So these are all things that are individual to your organization that we can talk through. And then once again, I'm here to help you, working with you to complete the information, to submit it to both the Colorado Department of Labor, and then we submit it on your behalf to the U.S. Department of Labor. At the end of the day, you as the organization become both a sponsor and an employer, and you're in that agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor. And you're agreeing to the fair work practices, and everything that we complete in an apprenticeship development form becomes a part of what's called a boilerplate. So you know exactly what it is that you're agreeing to. I can talk about scholarships in just a second. I just wanted to kind of keep a real quick basis on the next steps if you were interested in the registered apprenticeship. Were there any questions on the next steps? Awesome. I don't see anybody reaching for their mute button. So I do also work with the workforce centers in the statewide workforce system. So there are individual opportunities available where the individual apprentice could qualify for. There is a scholarship for $500 that almost every new registered apprenticeship would qualify for. So that would definitely be something that could help out in that first year. The other thing is if an individual is either recruited from the workforce center or they connect with the workforce center before they start working with your organization, they may have additional items that they qualify for. It may be additional, and there's multiple ways that can happen. And it could be used to help with the tuition. It could be additional apprentice support, so it could help them with the transportation to getting to Front Range Community College. It could be in the form of work boots or other supportive services if there was other tools that were necessary. And one other way that, depending upon the local workforce area, because every area you're making an agreement specifically with that area, there could be a reimbursement for that, some of that on-the-job learning or on-the-job training time. So there's kind of 3 different buckets of funding once we get outside of the scholarship realm that an individual could qualify for, that you as the company could also benefit for. But once again, that's always based on the individual and their circumstances. So we're always available to help you connect with your workforce center. I know that Save a Tree has worked with some of the workforce centers, and we've done some recruiting for them on the past. I know I've seen those recruiting announcements come through my email, so I see it in action. I know that we also I think we're currently helping the city of Aurora in some of their recruitment efforts, and we can work with whatever your local area is as well. Nikki, Josh, Lynn, was there anything I didn't cover that you were expecting me to cover?
I think you
No, that was
covered
great,
it.
Kat.
I just had one question about the $500 scholarship. Is that for any new apprentice? So if you have an existing apprenticeship program and have a new apprentice that would be coming on board for this fall, would they qualify for that one?
Yes, the only caveat is, because I always say it's based on the individual, if they had already been in a similar industry, that's the only USDOL wants to make sure that they're new to this industry. But yes,
I have a feeling almost all of our new apprentices would qualify for that $500. And that's outside of the community college system. So this is a non-credit program. So this is a perfect opportunity just to say where this is through workforce. So it doesn't matter anything else that they're getting or working with the community college on. And it doesn't matter whether the program's credit or not. That's another advertising tool we're able to use as you automatically get on what we call our endorsed training provider list. So when somebody comes into the workforce center and they're going to have to reskill themselves, they know they're not going to do the same job they've been doing, and they're looking at a training program, you also get that opportunity where you're now a training program and an employer at the same time. So you're on that list. So when an individual, a job seeker, they're a job seeker at this point, is looking, you have another exposure and another way you're able to advertise your recruitment.
Excellent. Thank you, Kat, for speaking to that. I didn't know, did you have anything else that you wanted to, a second segment that you wanted to cover as well?
No, I just kind of covered the scholarship separately there. And then this slide is available. Nikki has it to send out as well if you'd like it.
All right. Excellent. Anybody have any other questions at this time?
Josh, I would just mention as well that on our website, we have a "Are you interested?" button. And we've collected, and Nikki or Becky, can you help me with the number of folks who have come in through the interest button that are interested in the Arborist Apprenticeship?
The link to it?
The total number of people that we have on the list.
Oh, yeah, give me a second.
I used to know it and now it went out of my head, but I think it's.
We are 90. Sorry, just pulled me to the top.
Over 90 anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, 95.
95 people have come in through our website to say, yes, I'm really interested in the Arborist Apprenticeship. And these are possible employees. So that list lives, and part of what we do right away when they send that in is say, we're going to share your list, your name, with all the tree care companies in Colorado that are part of the Arborist Apprenticeship or part of Colorado Tree Care Sector Partnership. So Nikki has sent that out. And so you all, as part of this organization, have access to all those people who are very interested as well. So.
Lynn, thank you for that. Now I have a quick question about Front Range Community College, and then maybe anybody else on the call that might be able to help. How would I try to navigate the group maybe with Colorado Mountain College, and or do you have any direct connections there where I could begin a relationship with Jen over at Aspen Tree Service and we could start working on the mountain communities and trying to get this going up here?
Yeah, I have a contact with Colorado Mountain College and can easily reach out to her. I actually was approached by someone at Pueblo Community College who is also interested in starting the program down there. So I'm absolutely happy to. Mike, if you want to email me, I'll just put my email in the chat and we can connect with that person there.
Excellent. And I am a mentor of a gentleman that started a business about 5 years ago in Pueblo area. And so maybe I'll reach out to him, as he probably, his employees could probably really benefit from what's occurring.
Yeah, we developed this curriculum with, as I said, a grant through the Colorado Community College system. So the curriculum belongs to the system. So anybody, any of the community colleges can pick it up and teach it.
Excellent.
Yeah, and Mike, you know, and anyone on the call, if you know a tree care company that is interested or, you know, or would benefit, maybe they're not interested, but you think they would benefit from it. As a sector partnership, we want to be engaged with them. You know, we're an industry group. We embrace, like Kelly has said, it's a rising tide, it raises all ships. And so competition is striving together towards a common goal, right? And so, it's healthy. And, there's, we know there's an abundance of work. We also understand that in order to do that work, we need to cultivate a workforce. And so, as gracious as Kelly is about, hey, someone in our program moved on, and that's just a reality we have to face as humans, that people are going to change their careers and find different directions to go along their path. But as a sector partnership and as businesses, embracing that we are stronger and smarter and better together is really important. So, just bringing people into the fold. And I think, like, Megan, you reached out, we want to have a phone conversation, and I've, I think talk with your husband as well. And Mike, we've talked, and it's just it's a culture of sharing within our industry. So I think that's really important to maintain that and to encourage others to reach out.
I have a question about the interest list. I was looking at it the other day after the previous meeting, and it looks like, there's some different dates listed. There's, the top of this list, and then there's like the new inquiries, and then there's more people after that. How far back does this list go in terms of, how long people have been on this list? Is it culled every once in a while? That type of thing.
Yeah, I would say there are definitely some people on there that are cold, not culled, but cold. And I mean, you're welcome, I think, to contact anybody on that list just to see what you could come up with. And it's also, I'm sure, Tammy, this is not my wheelhouse, but you get an inquiry, the faster that you can respond to somebody that's interested, the more likely that is to be a productive conversation. So, I think anybody that has access to that list, like, I mean, if you're a prospective apprentice and you got 6 phone calls from employers, you're like, wow, holy smokes, I could be in demand. So that's kind of that's the rub on that from my perspective. Kelly or Tammy, if you're welcome, or Lynn or anybody else to share.
Well, I'll tell you that button has been on there since we put our website up 3 years ago. So they could be old. And now that you say that, I think that's a good point, in that there might be a way we can timestamp those so that you do know when they come in.
Any of the new ones are now. So Megan, you mentioned there's kind of like a colored bar. Any of those new ones are December 2020 and beyond, and those are all timestamped. And those would all be fresher. And there's some every week, honestly. So if you scroll to the bottom, those are the most recent.
Thank you for the clarification.
Additionally, if you do reach out to any of them and they say, oh, I'm no longer interested, if you could let me know, I'll take them off that list, just so they don't continue to get contacted.
Megan, I did make a note also, and I'm sorry I didn't cover this in my section, but you had asked about what the requirements were for an employer, and I think Josh did a pretty good job there. But once you register your program, our goal is right now we're hoping that if you're interested in starting someone, that you can get them into this current cohort. But if that's not possible or that doesn't work with your timeline, once you register your program, you have 1 year that you're in provisional status, and that so you have 1 year before you get your first apprentice. And then in order to have an apprenticeship program, you need only have 1 active apprentice within a year. So if you have 1 apprentice that's going through a 3-year program, at least every 4 years you need to have an apprentice, because you'd have that 1 buffer year. So that's how the gentleman in Pagosa with a smaller company was able to maintain that. So there's not a lot of requirements. And one of the beauties of an employer sponsor agreement versus everybody signing into the same agreement is the Department of Labor is very kind to employer sponsors because you have that job and you know what it takes to do that job. And so they really want to support you in how you as an employer can be successful. And they're gonna gauge you based on the size of the company and the resources you have, not necessarily, Save a Tree might be held to a slightly different standard than the smaller company, just because there might be different resources available and different opportunities there. So Josh, I don't know if you have any other feedback on that, but I kind of had made a note and I didn't cover that during my section.
Yeah, I think no, that's great, Kat. Those are all great points. I think it sounds like a lot when you're looking at it, and the actual experience of doing it and setting it up is really not hard and not time consuming. It's just getting a couple things straight, like, hey, do you want this to, veterans, right? You obviously, most anybody that's putting together an apprenticeship program wants it to be opened up to veterans, previously incarcerated people. Do you want to open it up to someone? And there's a lot of people in our industry that have made mistakes. And, from my perspective, we want to open up as many opportunities to workforce as possible. So you make those decisions. There's some, you can add competencies specific to your business. You're like, hey, we do this really cool thing and it's individual to Altitude Arborist. And we want all of our apprentices to have this skill. You can add that to the curriculum. And that can make it something that's unique at your company. So yeah, that process is pretty employer friendly is my perspective on that. Awesome. Anything else on the agenda or other topics or questions that anybody has or anything they want to share? Open it up. Bueller.
Nothing else on the agenda. I even learned quite a bit from it. So I'm thankful that we took the time to do this. And Mike and Megan, if there's any other summary or, follow up after this that you have additional questions, we're here to answer them.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Cool. Good to see you all here. Really appreciate you showing up and participating. I'm really hopeful actually that we could leverage this meeting to share out. It'd be great if from the sector partnership, we could share this out to the arborist business community as a whole. Might be a great way for somebody that doesn't really know if they want to engage to learn a little bit about apprenticeship. So yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the interaction and, glad I found the group.
We're glad you did too.
Woohoo!
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
Have a great day.
Thanks for taking the time out today, you guys.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Take care.